Welcome back. Right Path Real Estate Radio, 713-785-1817. It's funny. I had somebody the other day was asking for my phone number, and I was texting like, hey, text me. Actually, no, I put it in on, it was on an email. They sent me an email to wholesale@HoustonHouseBuyers.com, and they said, hey, what's your email or your cell phone number? I want to text you an offer for this. And I put in 713-785-1817. And then they said,
that's the radio phone number.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's funny. So PropertyCareHouston.com, PropertyCareHouston.com. We did a quick switcheroo. Michelle Rodriguez left the studio. Jerry Ta sitting down in the hot seat. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Yeah. So 713-489-7653 is your number.
Right.
Tell me some advice that you would give to a brand new investor looking to start getting into buy and hold. What are you seeing in the marketplace?
Well, right now it's actually been a really good time right now. I mean, our inventory of rentals has gone for the most part. I mean, we don't have a hard time renting out our houses. I think the issue with what we've seen with investors that we've been trying to help investors get is finding houses that actually cash flow.
Yeah.
And I think that's a continuing problem. We help evaluate, homes for investors, but they're just having a hard time finding homes that will actually cash flow.
Cash flow at all, or it's a zero cash flow?
So minimal.
Yeah.
Where it's like there's no margin for error.
Right. So you're saying like $100 a month or something like that. What would you say is the minimum margin that you would expect on a monthly basis? Is it $200 a month? Is it $100 a month?
I would say at least $200.
At least $200. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you're saying it's hard for them to find even something that cash flows $200 a month. Right. Now, is that because of the price range? Because the higher, I find the mistake that a lot of people make is they want to rent out $300,000 houses that rent for $1,800 a month. That's never going to cash flow because there's a supply and demand economic curve for purchase price of houses, and then there's a different supply and demand curve for rental rates.
Right.
And so, if you're around, we find the sweet spot is, a house that is worth 125, 130, 140, 150 that rents for, $125,000 house that rents for $1,500 a month, or a, $150,000 house that rents for $1,800 a month versus a $300,000 house that also rents for $1,900, $2,000 a month. I mean, it's just a couple $100 more.
Right. I think a lot of it has to do with, rent increases haven't kept up with home values.
Right.
As home values have increased, the inventory for houses priced in the 120, 130, 160 is really not there anymore. And even at that price point, you're competing against, owner occupants, and you're never going to beat those guys.
Right.
And then anybody that's, for properties that are meant for investments or just cash only, I mean, you're competing,
Yeah, the inventory of properties below $200,000, it's a shrinking number, right?
Yeah.
Because due to appreciation, there's no new houses being built below $200,000. I mean, you just can't.
Right.
Builder can't do it. Time they pay for the land, the construction costs, their marketing dollars, their profit. I mean, their carrying costs, all of those things, and it'll never happen again. We'll never be able to build a house
under 200.
Under 200, right? I mean, you can't even build a tiny house and put it on a piece of land.
It'd have to be really far out somewhere, like land is really cheap or something at this point to even get that anything close to 200 at this point.
Actually, you look at even with construction costs at around $100 a foot for big builders, right? And they can sometimes get it down to about 95, but land can only get so cheap, right? You can go out and even if you bought $10,000 an acre land and you subdivided it, time you put the dirt work in and you put the sewer lines in and electrical in, and I mean it's no longer. I mean it's $20,000 a lot, and if the lot cost is $20,000, that gives you can't spend $180,000 on construction, right? Because
and on top of that, now every builder has to reserve a portion of that land for displacement of water.
Right.
So
you can't get a full utilization, right? So it's hard to find a developed lot for less than $30,000. And then that means that you've got to build a house for $125. Well, heck, I mean that's an 1,100 square foot house.
Right. At that price point.
Right. And and so for not much more, because the cost of construction is only a part of it, because you've still got carrying costs and. Yeah, I mean, $300,000 is really a starter home now.
Yeah.
So that's what's fascinating, or at least 275, something like that.
And even then, like, I've shown homes, weighed out in Richmond and like, Grand Parkway and which is West Park Tollway.
Yeah, right.
And some of the materials they use now, I mean, they use vinyl plank in new builds.
Right.
And I was like, this is a rental material for me, but I get to lessen the cost and stuff. They cheapen up some of the materials.
Vinyl plank on flooring. Yeah.
Yes, on the flooring.
Right.
I was surprised, like, see a new house with vinyl plank. And I was like, wow, okay.
Which is a great alternative. Honestly, I I like vinyl plank. It's not. It wears better than wood, especially if you have pets or things like that. It also wears better than tile, because we know. I mean, I've lived out in that area, at like in Greatwood for 20 plus years, and so I know all of that has been pasture land or farmland for years and years, and with droughts and things like that, it's a very expansive clay soil out there, and so it's it's not a matter of if, it's when they're going to have foundation movement, not foundation failure, but foundation movement, and tile's going to crack.
Right.
And wood's not going to wear all that great. And so, I think vinyl plank's an excellent choice.
Yeah.
In fact, when you see in multifamily, Class A multifamily, they're doing, vinyl, glue down vinyl, and in really high-end Class A. You've seen it too, I'm sure.
Right.
And so, there are new inventions in flooring.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend in terms of how would somebody evaluate a deal? You want to have at least $200 a month of cash flow. What else do you take into consideration? What are some other mistakes that you see landlords making? Two of the mistakes I see them making is they don't build in any dollars amount for maintenance on the property. They're just expecting, they're going to set a tenant in there, tenant's going to take care of the property, and that 5 years from now, when they move out, you're not going to have to do anything, just re-rent it, right? They're going to move it out. You've got a deposit, right? You're going to. So that's one mistake I see, and then the other one is that they don't allow for any vacancy.
Right. So generally, you want always like at least a 10%. And I always tell owners, like, I have actually one owner that he built in a model where, if tenant wanted something, like if he can get just like he's willing to do any kind of upgrades up to 10% of the annual, like his rent amount that he would receive to keep the tenant happy, because he wants the tenant to stay longer term,
right?
To keep his vacancy rate low.
Right. That makes sense.
So that's one thing that I've seen, like, wow, that's a good idea. Like, he's willing, like, hey, they wanted,
he's realizing he's going to spend that money one way or the other.
Right.
So he can either spend it on having a vacancy or spend it on keeping them in there and keeping them happy.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then vacancy and maintenance, that is very dependent on, what kind of remodel or what you're doing to the house. Like, if you buy a house and you're changing everything out, I mean, you can kind of expect your maintenance cost to be low for the next few years. But someone that, is not, if you have an old water heater, old AC, or old roof, you got to kind of bake in that cost. It's like, hey,
What's the number one system that you see that investors wait too long to replace? Is it water heater? Is it HVAC? Is it, which one?
I would say roofs.
Roofs? They wait too long to replace a roof.
Right. I would say if your roof is starting to get one leak, you start really considering either saving up to replace the whole thing, because a roof leak just doesn't affect the roof.
Right.
It affects the tenant, the happiness of the tenant,
the
sheetrock, and then, I mean, if every time you're doing roof leaks and you're having to redo sheetrock, I mean, that's expensive. Piping, too.
Yeah.
I think, if you get galvanized pipe, you get one leak, I never want to do a clamp. The moment I see a clamp, I already know there's trouble down the line. And again, once that pipe leaks, your house could be flooded if the tenant's not there at home, and then you got to fix sheetrock again. And every single time I've seen a clamp, it leaks again.
Yeah, right.
Just like
someplace else, right?
A few
couple
feet
of
away,
feet, right?
A couple of feet away, and it just so we always replace the whole line and just not put a clamp on it.
Now, you only replace the line that's been clamped, which is normally going to be the horizontal hot side, right?
Right.
Yeah. Have you ever seen? Because especially as a landlord, if I'm flipping a house, I'm going to do all the horizontals hot and cold,
right?
Because it's going to inspect differently. But because inspectors don't really realize, that it's always the horizontal hot side that fails.
Right.
But if you're a landlord, no reason to replace the cold side, because it hardly. Do you ever see it fail on the cold side?
No, not really. Not at all.
And you never see it fail on the verticals either. It always is the hot side on the horizontals.
Right. That and one thing, when you're changing hot water heaters or replacing the hot line, be sure to remove your kitchen faucet. Almost every single time we've had to replace a water heater or a hot line.
Yeah.
the kitchen faucet gets so clogged up that we can't even clean out the aerator or anything. It just doesn't work anymore. Then you spend another couple $100.
Yeah.
To replace the kitchen faucet.
Interesting. A couple $100, really?
Or however.
Yeah,
much,
right. Yeah.
However much.
Well, there is a trick to that. If you'll remove the aerator before you start changing the other, and then have it run immediately afterwards, and it has a big enough hole. What happens is that when there's so much debris and it gets caught in the aerator, but then it backs up even further down the line, that will fix the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that little tip. Save you a couple $100.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so you're listening to Right Path Real Estate Radio. You're coming tonight, right?
I'll be there tonight.
So we have an event tonight. It's going to be at the Crown Plaza across from the IKEA on I-10. We'd like you to register if you're coming to the event. Go to rightpathrealestate.com. That's rightpathrealestate.com to register to come to the event. It's free to come tonight. I mean, why would you not want to be there? We're going to have a panel of experts talking about how you evaluate deals, and then we're also going to be doing a case study. One of our students bought a property at 58% minus repairs in a Sugarland neighborhood.
That's good.
Yeah. Everybody, what's interesting is most people, what they do is they do their calculations based on 70% minus repairs, and they and that's their maximum allowable offer, right? So they make an offer based on that. This person did numbers and then built in contingencies and realized that, hey, they're probably not competing with anybody else on this house.
Right.
And so we're going to be talking about all of those deals. It is okay to offer less than 70% minus repairs.
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
It's not. You're not breaking any rules or laws or anything like that. And so, even though some extra mistakes happen in the process, they're still making $88,000 on one flip.
I mean, you always got to evaluate the situation it is and see where the seller's at.
Yeah,
what things.
So give Jerry Ty a call. It's PropertyCareHouston.com. PropertyCareHouston.com. 713-489-7653. 713-489-7653. Thanks for coming in.
All right, thank you. See you tonight.
Thanks.